Well, welcome back to another episode of the Generational Clash. I am here with, once again, my dad, who is of the older generation, and I am a millennial, and we are discussing topics, pop culture, political topics, and yeah, it's actually more conservative, more liberal, but it's also a generational thing. So, welcome back, Dad.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back. We are back at doing what we do
Yes,
best.
yes, we are back doing the
And
podcast.
today, before we go any further, please subscribe, like, and most of all, comment. So your feedback is very important. Thank you.
Don't forget, guys, you have been given good instructions. So today we are talking about violence in the black community. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Violence in the black community.
In the inner city, yeah.
Violence in the inner city.
Inner city black community is the same thing, yeah.
Well, I mean, there's an inner city in Europe. Oh, actually, nowadays.
In America, we're talking about. In
nowadays,
America.
Europe, yeah, that is the black. Or the Middle Eastern community. Oh gosh, what a joke. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, so I think it's a problem. I think that there's enough of it, and it's frequent enough that it can be predicted, and it's a problem. I think, yeah, I think it's something pretty serious. That's a plague. It's been a plague on our community for a long time. Coming out of the civil rights era, which is pretty funny. Before the civil rights era, there wasn't the epidemic of violence that we see, but after the civil rights era is when it exploded. Now, there's a few factors that I think led to that, but yeah, it's after the civil rights era that the violence in the black community exploded, which is interesting.
Hello, hello. I, as it related to gangs and violence in the inner city in the United States, I can never fathom, understand the madness behind it. To me, I guess this is where me and my son, the younger generation, will agree, and I try my best to understand. But there's nothing to be understand. It's totally insanity. Um, and in my city where I live here, I see it firsthand. But nationally, the Crips and the Blood, they come together to form gangs to wreak havoc
For an example, yeah.
on the black community. It's not gang who is looking out for the betterment of the community. It's to kill and maim their rival. And I could never ever understand why someone would really and truly get involved in such a destructive thing. It don't make any sense. And it become a part of the culture where a young man will feel proud and accomplished by saying, yeah, I am Crips. Yeah, I'm Blood. Even accomplished, the Snoop Dogs of the world and people like them who are accomplished, still is on this foolishness.
They engage in that culture.
Saying that I am a Crips.
And
what does it do for the black community? What progress? What progress? What is the benefit of saying that? Show me how the community benefit one iota from such thing. It doesn't make any sense. And the only thing one of the only thing I'm not a fan of Trump, but he says one of his agenda is to crush, destroy permanently all those gang members in Chicago, in LA, all over across America. And I was hoping this would be the first thing he do. But I'm waiting and begging and hoping that he gets to it. And I hope it is worse than what he's doing to the immigrant, because the gang culture that create death, mayhem, and fear across America need to finally laid to rest.
So I don't think he. I think his words were he played it very politically safe when it comes to that. He said, from what I remember him saying is, there's a lot of problems in Chicago, a lot of problems, there's a lot of problems going on in a lot of inner cities around the country, and something's gonna need to be done about that. We're gonna need to do something about that. It was along those lines. So I mean, obviously speaking of the, that's definitely a part of it, if not all of it. And he's not going to get a lot of pushback from normal people. Of course, the machine, the establishment, will use its prostitutes in the news to push some ridiculous narrative of how they might even go as far as to say is how killings in the inner city by active gangs is somehow helping it. They'll say that. They don't care. They really don't care what they say to us. They will run something so ridiculous. But I do agree that obviously if he does something about it, that would be for the better of the country. What would you say has started? What would you say is the apex or the root cause of such a proliferation of violence in the inner city, or I must be more specific and say in the black community across America? What would you say is the root cause of that?
Studies, if you read and believe, and the studies say it's poverty, lack of opportunity, and so forth and so on. But I believe the problem is bigger than that. Many youths I see, it takes them to go to prison for them to realize that their action was stupid and is stupid. Not everybody who go to prison come back and change, but many of them that I speak with look back and said they were so stupid, but they couldn't see it before they went to prison. And to me, it doesn't take me to go, and it won't take me to go to prison to know that, killing each other and hating each other and all of that madness, carrying guns, shooting after people, is not, there's nothing progressive about that. So the problem is huge, and I think it's more than poverty. I think it become embedded in our culture, where violence and gang is glorified. For instance, in my community, there are two gang members. I forgot the name because it's so idiotic that I like
Couldn't give any brain cells to remember it.
yeah, I just couldn't waste any time. So there's two gangs live across the street from each other in where I live, right? And I am in the United States now about 45 years, and ever since they are at odds with each other, which means that the older generation either in prison, get killed, or they die by natural cause. Good. So the younger generation take it up and continue the same madness, even though they see the older generation either in prison, they get killed, or they die somehow. They still take it up and continue the madness. And one gang member who live across the street cannot come across the street and walk down the street, and vice versa. And they cannot, if they have a family member or a friend or whatever over the other side, they cannot visit over the other side, because such act would result in death.
Very acrimonious.
And when I learned of these things, I said, all of these idiots that lives in these projects, All of them are paying rents. Not one of them own a single thing over these projects. And they are fighting for turf that they do not own and killing people. You don't come on my turf because you are not in my gang. Somebody help me to understand how stupid this thing is. Because, like my son says, I cannot waste or I don't have the brain cell power to understand how stupid this thing is. It's way, way beyond stupid. So I really believe it's beyond poverty, it's beyond lack of opportunity, because a lot of people who were not born here come here without the opportunity and come here in poverty. And instead of joining a gang, they work 3, 4, 5 jobs to lift themselves up by themselves. Which, if these same gang member applied this method, they too would be in a better position.
So in terms of the root cause, I think that's a part of it. What you said, which was hold on, it was poverty. Poverty is a part of it. But
lack of opportunity.
That's a part of it. But I mean, we didn't have this kind of violence after slavery. It wasn't recorded this rampant killing of each other after slavery. This is something that happened, that started to happen in the 60s and has propagated up until now. And it has changed a little bit of its form, but for the most part, it's the same thing. I think, and I'm sure you've seen this, I'm sure most people have heard about this, I think it was the deterioration of the family. I think the powers that be, the establishment, whatever good they saw in it, they chose to target the black family, and it had disastrous or wanted effects. And I think that is really what started this whole thing. And I think as we see single motherhood so prevalent in the black community, I think that is definitely, and the violence is still as strong as, or stronger maybe a little bit than it was when it since the 60s. I think that is at least half of the problem right there. I think, and we have testimonies from different people. Tupac famously said if he had a father, he would not have been so quick or so ingrained in the gang culture that was around him. That's something that he said very emphatically. So we do have testimonies like that. We have others that have spoken about it as well, and of course there's data that backs it up. And we could all see a trend as well. The marriage rate in the black community before the civil rights movement was about like 85%. And after that, it's gone down. Now, I'm not saying we need to get rid of civil rights. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying that they unfortunately package that with a lot of bad things that incentivize. Remember, you incentivize the behavior that you want. You incentivize the behavior that you want. You incentivize the behavior that you want. So, welfare came about around that time. Encouraging women to not necessarily depend on a reliable mate. So again, that's an incentive. Oh, it's just to help those who are da 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 da. But just know that it's there, okay? And hey, if he's not in the house, that's a check. That's an easy check. In other words, that's something that any dum-dum can do. What, you're going to leave free money on the table? Now, I'm being a little quick here. There's much more to be said about how this whole thing happened and went about. But, yeah, that's a huge part of it. That spiraled from there. You see a lot of young men today. I think another big reason that we see people not really aiming for better, because there's nothing wrong with the black mind. The black mind is not the mind of an ape. It's not that we're just predisposed to being violent freaks, right? But when you have a community and a people, like you said, that glorifies certain things, that becomes an incentive. And once again, you incentivize the behavior that you want. So if you have all the music saying this is the way to be, and this is and look and you know, those are the leaders that are being pushed to the kids. Thomas Sowell isn't in too many classrooms, unfortunately. The first black congressperson from what 1800s, which was a Republican. You hear almost nothing about him. I can't even remember his name after that. He should be somebody every black person should know. And unfortunately, I don't even know his name, and I know about it, and I still don't know his name. W.E. Du Bois. We have so many great, accomplished, amazing figures who happen to be black that we can, if we want to push black excellence, these should be the people that are constantly pushed, that are talked about in our schools, in our families, in our communities, and almost no one knows their names. Instead, we hear about this rapper, that rapper, this prominent figure in the drug trade. This, what I mean, and that's not an accident, especially not after what is it, 80 years now? Sorry, maybe not 80 years, but 60 years. That's not an accident after 60 years. There is a concerted effort to keep our community the way it is. It's benefiting definitely special interest groups, but it's still a choice for us to maintain this way of life. Although yes, it's incentivized, it's still a choice that's being made by the actual people who are finding themselves entrenched in this culture. We don't have to be like this, and it's gonna take people putting their necks out, unfortunately, and probably getting hurt and stabbed and ridiculed, or you being corny, or that's not ill or whatever. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of households who just don't operate like they should operate. I'm sure everybody has spoken to a single mom who is just like, why do you have kids? Like, you don't care to try, you don't care to give the minimal effort that would be needed in order to give this kid a fighting chance. There's some kids out here who maybe it's not even a single mom, maybe they have a mom and a dad, and it's like, man, this kid has no chance. The dad's retarded, almost, basically. He's just a dumb idiot going from one violent act to the next. The mom is not much better. She's just a female version of him, and it's like, wow, how is he supposed to make it in the world? So there's a lot we can do as a community. It's not that we're hopeless. It's not that we need white people to save us. It's not that we need the government to come in. We were doing it just fine for years with less help than now. We have everything we need to do. It just needs to be something that we're deliberate about. It needs to be something that there's one person who comes to mind, King Randall. Follow him on all platforms, King Randall, and he's a black guy out of Alabama. I'm pretty sure it's Alabama. He's in the Deep South, and his community was, as we're describing, plagued by drugs and problems and single motherhood and all this nonsense. And God put it on his heart. He saw a need in his community. God empowered him. He put it on his heart to do something about it, and he started taking in young boys who were destined for jail or death inside of his home, and he was able to turn around a lot of people, and his organization has grown since then a whole heck of a lot. And he's letting God lead, and he's following in Christ's footsteps, and he's doing so good for his community. Almost nobody knows about this man. Almost nobody knows about him. After something like BLM, for somebody like King Randall to be virtually unknown within the black community just speaks to the level of opposition that we're dealing with, and how important it is that we are discerning in who we're allowing to lead us and who we're allowing to influence us as a people. I really could not come up with a better organization to help stifle real and productive change in the black community other than BLM. And like I said, that's just one example of them doing the job not to uplift black people, but to keep them in a certain path. But anyway, back to King Randall. King Randall is doing an amazing job, doing amazing work out of Alabama. Started off taking taking troubled kids into his house, right? And since then things have blown up. Recently, Elon gave a lot of money. Well, not a lot of money, but I don't know how much money he gave, but he gave him a shout out, which exposed him to a good deal more people. And it's those kind of efforts that we need to lift up. It's those kind of efforts that we need to replicate in more areas. It's not impossible. King Randall's doing it. He's hands on. And again, he was just some guy that saw the decay in the neighborhood and said, it doesn't have to be like this. And he's 100% right. The same God that lifted up Abraham, that lifted up Isaac, that kept them, that prospered Israel, is the same God that loves Randall and all the kids in his neighborhood. That are in my neighborhood, your neighborhood. It's the same Holy Spirit. It's the same power. So people who want change, people who are sick and tired of seeing it, that's the first step. And I just want to encourage anybody. It's not hopeless, but it does take sacrifice and it does take perseverance. Obviously, not every kid that came into his care made it. You can only do what you can do, and people have to want to help themselves as well. But there are people like that around, and it's good to see that change is possible when people actually want it and when people actually support it. I don't know if you ever heard of him, King Randall.
You told me about him, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to correct one thing you say. Gang violence in America, some of it was before the 1960s. As early as the 1920s, California was experiencing black gang, but not to the proportion of what it is now. But it is true that the Crips and the Blood comes out of the 60s. As far as the today's youth need to make a better decision, I totally agree with that. There's a lots of evidence that is out there for one to draw on, to use as a deterrent, to say, you know what, I'm not going to go down this path because this path would lead certainly to destruction.
Yep.
And also, I don't think it's too late for all those prominent figures who glorify, their membership in gangs. What if these gangs was doing something? I often think, what if these gangs were doing something productive?
And why don't they? It's been 60 years.
For instance, instead of, guns and drugs to kill each other, right? Say, okay, we're going to get a job and we're going to put 5%, 10%, whatever, of our money together so we can buy houses and land, not car and all of those things, houses and lands, real things. What if they put their energy and their time into that? Just imagine the different the community would look and how progressive the community would be.
Yeah.
And it would take less to me to accomplish that than the mayhem that's going on in the community.
Yeah. And something like that could really jump off too. The thing is, though, we would need to first, before we do that, I think, or maybe in congruent with that, we would have to invest in a political structure in the community, because somebody starts doing too much good like that, they're going to be attacked. They're going to be taken down. So there needs to be some sort of education to the people saying, hey, look, I know we can change this thing around. We can do a lot of good, and this is the kind of good I want to do. It'll be like an education thing, I think, because people need to understand. Like if you try to get something started with the average person who's in a community, they're too focused on themselves and what they need. There's no insight to the bigger picture. That's why this is able to promulgate so much, because nobody has an eye on the bigger picture. Your average gang member, there's nothing beyond their block. It's just or their little turf area. There's nothing. The world is way too small for them to invest in something like this because it's just not in them, right? So there needs to be some sort of education, I think, where we expose people to say, hey, look, this the things you see around the world, a better community. It's not this pipe dream. It's not this science fiction novel. It's a couple years of effort that can start right now. Look at this successful person over here, this King Randall. Look what he's done. You know, you know. I'm about to say LeBron James' school thing. I mean, that ended up being a disaster. He doesn't really care. I mean, you know, he did something, but unless it's gonna be something that it's a passion that you constantly are putting your effort in, you know, it's just gonna fall apart like his thing did. But it was an attempt, so thank you for that. You know, it was nice. But yeah, people's horizon needs to be expanded because your average dum carjacking people, they're not even invested in themselves. How much more the community? They don't think of themselves at 40 or at 30 or what their kids are going to be doing. It's just one impulsive decision to the next. So, you know, having some sort of education, it starts off and I would, if, in my mind, how I think it would be effective if, you know, like I started talking to people about, hey, you know, this is what's going on with our government. This is what they are saying that they wanted the country to be in about 10 years. This is how it affects you. Okay. I think that we should, within our community ourselves, this is how things should be looking, and this is how we can get to it in about this many years. This is what I would need for you to do. I think this is something that we can do, and this is how it's going to benefit everybody. And I think that just that in of itself would help people to just, you know, look outside their door and don't feel like these people are in a mental prison, which is somebody's making money off of it, because otherwise it would have stopped years ago. And I think so basically that's something I think would help is expanding people's horizon.
Talking about mental prison, this came to mind about
Write stuff down here if you want.
About 15 years ago or so, 12 years ago, I met someone who grew up in the project around the killing and the violence and the rape and the kidnapping and the gang banging and the drugs and all these negative behavior. And he knew this is not the life he wanted for himself. So he used education to get himself out of the project and the ghetto. And he was able to purchase a house in the suburb about 30 or so miles from the city where he grew up. So I usually go to his house and, you know, we sit and we talk and we play dominoes and we play, you know, he's my good friend, one of my best friends. So after a while I asked him, I said, how comes I have never seen the friends you grew up with or your family in your up here at your house? And he get very emotional. And he said to me, he would love to invite the friends he grew up with to his house. But if he was to ever do that, it would be the start of going down a road that he doesn't want to go to. Because the people this man was in his late 40s. He said the people he grew up with is still in the project, gang banging, because at this point of their life, that's all they know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some of them have never traveled 5 miles away from the project.
Yeah.
So that's all they know. And taking them to his nice house in the suburb, they're going to get jealous of him how you do this, and they're going to start acting funny and all of that stuff. And I said, really? He said, I'm telling you, man, I cannot have them come up here. And that was very profound to hear that.
Sad.
No, he would go back to the project, and he dressed nice, he speak nice, he carry himself very nicely. And when he go back there, they would call him a sellout because he is not gang banging and drug selling. And I could never understand that. In my mind, I'm like, they should take him and say, sit down with us and tell us, how did you do this? How did you leave the project? How did you leave all of this madness? Teach us, because we want to leave too. No, they expect for him to come back and say, here is $10,000, buy some drugs, sell it, give me my share, and you take your share. And he's not into that. And sadly, he see a lot of them in prison and a lot of them die. So this is the mentality that need to be changed. And no one will change it but the individual. Need to realize that this is madness. Your peer that you're trying to impress, they need to impress that peer and say, listen, we can't continue on this trajectory. We need to change it. If we need better, we need to change it. So it need to start with the individual, because there's lots of evidence out there for them to embrace and says we need to take a different path. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it.
When it comes to and people would say, oh, like you said, there's a lot of influences, that want us to act a certain way, that are telling us to act a certain way, and there's no doubt about it, and they're not gonna go away overnight. If they go away ever, that's on you. So what do you do then? Use that understanding to recognize your enemy. Use that understanding to see, okay, so this is where the people are who wish me harm. This is where they are. This is where they're coming from. This is who they're with. And then you can move accordingly and, again, make your decisions as an individual. It's not either you have to do what they say or just ignore them. No, let that be a part of the plan making, because again, there's always going to be forces against you for whatever reason. Majority of the time, your problems are going to be from you and your own decision making. That's going to be 80% of your problems, is just yourself and your shortcomings. But I'd say
totally agree with that.
20 or less than that is going to be external pressures and problems. But if most people can master what's going on with them, this is most people. Obviously, there's some people who are in slavery right now from the open borders. That's another thing. But for the average person, 80% of their issues and problems and hardships will come from within themselves. But please, see who's telling you to do certain things. See who's pushing certain messages into the community. See who's saying, "Oh, we're here to help," and then you turn around and nothing's being done. Nothing's been done for however many years these organizations have been operating, or how much money has gone to these operations and how much has actually made its way to bettering the areas. How many after-school programs did BLM start? Where are they? Is that something that we didn't need? What other benefit have we gotten from? They've received billions of dollars from corporations. Where did all that money go? These are things that we need to ask, not because we need to necessarily, destroy the people in these organizations, but we need to learn from our mistakes. We need to not repeat the same mistakes, and we need to say, okay, you've proven yourself to be a monster. You've proven yourself to be a demon of some sort. All right, I'm gonna not invest in you anymore. I am not gonna invest in anything like you anymore. Instead, I'm gonna look for something that more aligns with the results that I want. Okay. and that's the real point of that. Of course, hey, look, if we can get some culpability and some justice, great. But more importantly, we need to not repeat the same awful, terrible, disgusting investment and decisions that we've made in certain organizations like BLM, which is trash.
Well, as you can tell, he's not a fan of BLM,
No.
but I am. Black life does
Yeah.
matter.
All right.
And my phrase is Black life matters not because white life doesn't matter, but because black life is equal to. And in America, nobody can argue that there's equality between the two. Anyway, my advice to the youths who are in gang and who will get involved in gang, this is my advice to you. It's a dead end road to destruction. You will not be, it will not benefit you in the long run. You are messing up your life. You're destroying your life. Someone come to you and give you a gun. Think to yourself, this is where you need to come in and think to yourself, how will this gun benefit you, help you
In 20 years.
down the road? If you cannot
Not
walk,
immediate.
you cannot walk on the street with the gun. If police find you with the gun, you're going to prison for a long time.
What's my long-term strategy here? What's this person's goal with me giving me this
gun.
opportunity?
Also, someone get you involved into the drugs game. Again, ask yourself, look at this. There is not a drug dealer in the United States who successfully make a career out of selling drugs.
The last successful one was in the early 1900s.
Not one. So you can sell drugs for a time, but eventually the long arm of the law will catch up with you, and whatever your money you gain or property you bought will be taken away. So all of that will turn out to be for nothing. So there is nothing in there for you but heartache, pain, and sorrow. So this is for you to think. This is not what you want for yourself. You want more than this for yourself. You need to learn. For instance, learn a trade. There's lots of opportunity out there for you to learn a trade.
Lots and lots.
Learn how to invest in the stock market.
Yep.
You want to become millionaire overnight? That's a good legal way for you to become rich overnight.
Yep.
If you learn how to invest in stocks. Doing these things will not only help you, but help your family, your community.
Software development, very big.
These are the things I believe that we need to start push to our youths. The glorification of crime and violence and all of that stuff, we need to minimize that. We need to debunk it and start to push positive things in the mind of our youths.
Lift up good role models.
I was a mentor for like 10 years, and I have seen 13, 14, 15-year-old who was lost to the street. There's nothing I could tell them for them to see a different way than gang banging in the street. I see 13, 14-year-old with guns.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing with guns?
Happens too often.
I'm gonna cap a nigger. I'm like, the only reason why you call this individual a nigger, because nigger is a bad word. And if you had says, I have this gun to cap a king or a queen, you would not embark on this journey. But you have to denounce the person, belittle the person by calling him a nigger. And by calling him a nigger, in your mind, he's worth to be killed. But if you had says, I want to kill a king. King is a positive word, positive pronoun.
Mm-hmm.
you would have think twice, oh my God, I can't kill that king. So there a drastic turn need to be take. Drastic turn need to be take wherever the breakdown is. Some said it's in the home, some said it's in the community, it's in the school.
Definitely no.
Some say, everybody have their own. But wherever it is, we need to come together and really apply a solution, because currently it's not working, it's broken, so it need to be dismantled and fixed. And that is my 2 cents to the problem. That's my solution to the problem.
So earlier you were saying that you believe in BLM. You believe in the phrase Black Lives Matter, or do you believe in the organization Black Lives Matter? Because everybody believes in the phrase.
I believe in the movement that, yes, Black Lives Matters. And too often...
No. I mean the specific corporation, Black Lives Matter, that was associated with Patrice Cullors and the rest of those weirdos. That organization.
We could end here and start talking about Black Lives Matters. So this brings us to the end of this. Our next topic will be about Black Lives Matters. Thank you for listening.
We can just talk about it right now. Okay, fine.
If you want to talk about it, we can talk about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, all right. So yeah, like. All right.
Black Lives Matters.
Yeah. So the organization,
we shifted from the crime in the community to Black Lives Matters.
It's connected. Okay. To me, it's connected.
Okay.
I'm talking about the organization, the specific organization, not the phrase, and not a movement that claims Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about the organization, the BLM organization.
Okay.
Yeah. They were garbage. Turned out to be a grifting organization. Almost none of the money went to uplifting black people, but a few people got rich and are pretending to be victims whenever you ask them, hey, what happened to the money? They're suing each other. They got individual chapters suing the leaders because they didn't get whatever kind of money they were supposed to get. Like I said earlier, going forward, we need to have better discernment. When things are obvious grift, when we're not seeing money's coming in, and none of the money is being used for long-term good in the community, not just having a pop-up where we have a barbecue, but long-term good, investing in the community, after-school programs, information seminars where we bring investors to come and talk to people. We bring real estate people with big real estate portfolios to come and give their insight. Parenting workshops, things like that. Things that help to build up people and give them answers to questions. If you're not seeing any of that come from an organization that's meant to help black people, that's meant to, change the dynamic in the inner city, it's quite obvious a grift and a scam. So going forward, I'd like to see us as a community. Look, some people made some good money off it. I'm not talking to you, okay? I know you're willing to sacrifice whatever you can for $1. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the people who wanted to see something, or people who are peripherally invested. We need you more invested. We need you more in the community, engaging with what gets promoted, engaging in what becomes mainstream in the community. And we need to be more discerning as to what those things are. BLM was a quite an obvious scam. It wasn't that hard to see through.
Okay. This is again where we don't see eye to eye. I think so often society tell us how to think and what to think.
Every day. Every day.
If we focus on the corruption, and yes, I will agree, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's corruption in the BLM movement. Some people get rich. I wouldn't be surprised about it, right? But I look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that the reason why BLM was formed
to make money
is bigger than the people who individual in there who stole money. BLM was formed and come in place because of the lynching of black people in the United States of America by police officers. And it was sanctioned by whoever, by the federal government and whichever state it happened to. Police was always right and black people was always wrong, no matter what the evidence say contrary. So this movement come out of that, and that's my focus. That's where my focus is. How can we bring a solution to the 400 years of police brutality amongst black people? Not BLM who is stealing money. Once you focus on that, then you lost your focus on what matter, in which is the protection of black life, just like equally as the protection of white life.
So what good did they do in regards to you to what you believe that their goal was?
What good personally it bring me?
No. Like what in terms of the reality, in terms of what everybody was able to benefit from. How did they how did they move forward that goal?
It worldwide it bring awareness worldwide of the wickedness, the evil of how black people is treated in America. And all over the world, people was galvanized in saying, even white people, black life matters. Me and my daughter, my youngest daughter, took part in a couple of marches. And most of the people in those marches was white people, which gave me hope that all was not lost. So that was the positive that came out of it, because it unified America to say this has to be stopped. Really and truly, what we see with Floyd, whatever his name is, George Floyd, what we see that is obvious what we saw. No matter how it is spinned by those in authority, we know what we saw. And Black Life was able.
The organization, you mean?
The organization was able to put forth a narrative where it galvanized not only people in the United States, but all over the world. There was marches taking place that, listen, we are in solidarity with black people in America. That is what I take from it. It is too bad that when we have organization like this with black people at the helm, most of the time, these are what things happen. You have these things happen.
No, I don't think it's because black people were at the helm. I think it's because we didn't discern the nature of these people. Look, there's bad people running organizations of any race and culture all over the world. That's not a black people problem. What I'm saying we should do is, the next time we get at such, it's the first time we ever had it's the first time in a long time we've had an organization of that scale specifically focused on black issues. And let me ask you, for them to come up with a couple of marches and this encourage this worldwide focus on this issue, do you think that was that was all their money and resources well spent? Do you think that was worth however many billions of dollars that came into the organization? Do you think that was worth all the man hours and all the different people that came together?
Again, I don't know how much money. I don't know if it was in a billion or million, but I know there was money.
They received billions from different industries like Nike, from different corporations, and then they received millions in terms of donations from people like me and you.
Let me see here how much money did Black Lives Matters raise? Black Lives Matters raised over $90 million.
Again, and that was from individuals like me and you.
Okay.
In terms of their corporate sponsorships, they receive billions.
I don't know of.
But let's just say 90 million.
I can speak on that.
Let's just say
90 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
No.
Is that, from what you've seen them produce, is that a good stewardship of $90 million?
I would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes, the reason, a lot of things I didn't agree with the Black Lives Matters, like defund the police. I didn't subscribe to that because that doesn't make sense to me.
So then you didn't think that was a good, because that's what they produced.
No, that's not true. Okay. The thesis, the main thing that came out of the Black Lives Matters is what Trump and his cronies is against, which is to hold police accountable when they crucify and lynch a black person. When they act outside of the law, police change the law so police can be sued individually when they act outside of the law. Not when they act according to the law, but when they stepped outside of the law, i.e. George Floyd. That police can be sued individually.
I don't know. They didn't. That's not something that
the
they
Republican
got passed.
and Trump is against it, and that law.
That's not something that they got passed.
It wasn't passed.
No, but I'm saying that's not that. That's
I don't think it debated in Congress, and the Republican totally was against it. Was against it.
What they did, what they pushed for is like the thing that you just said you didn't like. No police in the community, and for crimes to be punished less. Now the people who now while they're pushing for that, the leaders are living in white areas, which is hilarious. Like again, this wasn't a good scam. This wasn't a good scheme. This was an obvious and blatant grift from the beginning. These people are pushing for you not to have any kind of security, which you've been paying for all these years, and for crimes like murder, crazy theft. Look, they passed these things in D.C., in California, and look what happened to those areas. Did they get any better? And meanwhile, again, they pushed that garbage, and then they're living in mansions in white areas. This was not something that we had to fall for. And it really is kind of embarrassing that you had a lot of black people who just couldn't see past the nonsense. These people are not, they were never really invested in the betterment of the community, I would say. If they were, as soon as the money started coming in and a couple other voices started talking in the air about how they could maximize their money and how they can have connections here and there, I think that left them, if that was ever in them.
Okay. Wherever you get your news from, it is stampede your growth to think for yourself.
I do not see
hold on.
where $90 million went.
Following the murder of George Floyd.
Where did $90 million go? Where?
Following the murder of George Floyd, there have been efforts towards police to reform at both the state and local level, including ban and chokeholds, increasing civilian oversights.
There's been efforts
and calls for directing police funding to community services.
For efforts.
On the federal level,
$90 million in efforts.
On the federal level, come on. On the federal level, 4 years after, come on, where is it?
Hey guys, we gave it a good shot, okay?
And
hey, look, we're gonna go back to the mansions. Y'all be good and don't kill each other, all right? If you do, no police are gonna come by.
On the federal level, the Congress has failed to pass a comprehensive reform.
Oh man,
of police. So that is where
another 90 million, guys. Let's try again.
That is where my focus is,
and nothing happened
because the Republican voted against it.
And is that enough for you? Is that enough that the Republicans just stopped it? And oh man, guys, whoops.
It means more. To save black people's life in America, to stop police from killing black people, from killing innocent black people legally as they used to do in slavery and still doing today. The most important thing, someone get $90 and misspend $90 is insignificant to lawmakers refusing to pass laws that will hold police accountable for their action. If they had raised, if they had raised $1 trillion, if they had raised $1 trillion, if they had raised $1 trillion and misspent that $1 trillion, money cannot compare to life.
Daddy, the $1 trillion in your example was supposed to go to get the law passed.
No,
the reason why you didn't get the law passed because none of the money went towards the effort.
That's not true.
In your example, that's what happened.
That's not true.
And that's what happened in real life.
The Republican did not need to get paid or did not need to get pushed to pass a sensible law.
Yes, they do. Whatever benefits me and you needs to get pushed to these freaks, to these demons. Yes, there needs to be a political will. That's why we're having all these gay wars all over the world, because it doesn't benefit me and you, but it benefits a certain group of people.
The same Republican.
We need a political upswell in order to get our voices heard, because we don't have the financial capital, which is what moves these degenerates. These prostitutes.
I totally disagree with you, because the evidence.
This is the reality. Money moves politics. The people don't control. How comes we have poison in all our food? Because we like it?
Okay.
No. How comes we having all these gay wars all over the world? Because the people are begging for more war? No. How comes our schools are falling down? How comes the American infrastructure is where it's at? Because this is all stuff that we've been voting for. We want terrible infrastructure? No, because the will of the people do not reach do not become laws. Do not become the outcome in Congress. Money and special interests do, and they advocate for the things that lead to the reality today. This has been the reality time immemorial.
The money that you said did not reach the Republican to grease,
it need to
to
reach
grease
the
their
Republican.
hand.
That it. Listen, this is ridiculous.
It's
now.
not because
I'm not saying
money.
they should have paid off politicians directly.
That's
I'm
exactly
saying
what you're
no, man. Come on, That it. Look, this is ridiculous. Now.
Currently,
I'm talking about using the money to advocate and to get the people invested in a certain outcome, so that they advocate for it, so that we march for it, that we elect people and we challenge politicians that you're gonna lose your seat if you don't do this or that. Look at how much groundswell. Come on, man.
all of what you're saying was done. I was politically active to get this thing passed. Currently,
you said you wouldn't mind if they spent none of the money towards it. So obviously you were not you were not savvy enough at the time.
No, that's not what I said. What I said is this. You're focusing on the money that was allegedly mismanaged, right?
Which was
and let's say the money was mismanaged.
Yes.
Let's say $1 trillion was mismanaged, right? Mm-hmm. That to me is insignificant, because what is the matter and what is significant is for us to save the next black life from police snuffing the black life out.
Yeah.
So the $1 trillion doesn't worth as much as one black life. The black life, saving the black life, protecting the black life, is more important than the budget of the United States of America, which is about $50 trillion or $100 trillion now. One black life is more than the entire budget of the United States.
And I'm saying that that money should have been used to get that outcome. Okay. You're saying you don't mind if the money's not used for that outcome. That's crazy.
We don't need the money. We don't need the money for the outcome, because currently the same Republican are passing laws every day without any money.
That it.
Every day. Every day, this president is passing law, changing law, as ridiculous as some as they may be, without, and the Republican is behind it 100%, without any money being funneling to say, okay, you need to do this or is this going to happen? So the issue is not money. The issue is lack of priority to act. The interest of black people is not the interest of the United States Congress, and that is simple as what it is.
Okay.
To me, that's simple as what it is. You believe the narrative that the Republican put out there, that black life is the matter. Just like how they say civil rights is the problem, affirmative action is the problem. No, these same wicked hypocrite people, affirmative action could not be the problem. The problem is your racism that cause for affirmative action. So before you want to get rid of affirmative action, you wicked, racist, evil person, get rid of your racist, wicked self. And when you do that, there will be no need for affirmative action. But the Republican narrative tells you that affirmative action is the problem. And you run with it, and it's not true.
All right. Well, I'm not
Black Lives Matter is not
BLM.
Black Lives Matter is not the problem. The problem is what was done to cause the rise of Black Lives Matters. That is the problem. That is the problem. Don't try to get me off not to focus on the problem, because it's not going to work for me. Don't matter what you come with. You could come with God. It's not going to take me from off what the problem is. The problem is police brutality of black people. How can we fix it? Black Lives Matter all the money on earth, if it's $1 zillion on earth, they could get it and mishandle it. It's still not going to get me off the focus of how can we rectify peacefully, how can we rectify with equal justice?
I'm not sure where we're talking past each other, but we're talking past each other because we agree that the outcome of better policing. I'm no fan of the state. The state murders people all the time, unjustly, But I don't know. Maybe it's because you just like BLM, and I understand that they're.
No, I love black people.
Yeah.
I love. No, I should say.
I'm talking about BLM,
I love human
organization.
beings. I love human beings.
I'm talking about the organization now. I'm talking about
I don't even know who they are. I don't know who they are.
I'm talking about the organization. So the organization wasn't useful towards the goal, the very goal that you're talking about. And I
disagree with that.
No. You said in your scenario that even if you knew they misspent all of the money, you wouldn't be bothered, because I don't understand your logic. That logic is crazy. But yeah, so I feel like we're talking past each other. But I think you have anything else to say?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Black Lives Matters.
The organization?
No.
Oh, okay.
I am talking about the movement.
Okay.
If it's Black Lives, to me, living in the United States of America, what I have seen and witnessed, my own experience, there is separate and equal justice for black and white people. As much as people want to deny that or don't want to talk about it, it's the fact of the United States. For me, this is the reason why Black Lives Matters. Black Lives Matters not because black people's life is better or more important than white people, but because black people's life is equal to white people. And until that day, and until that is achieved, the fight for equality will not cease. That's my 2 cents on that. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Black Life Movement or whether it's Marcus Garvey movement or whatever movement, it will continue because everybody deserves to live with dignity.
Yeah, I don't think many people disagree with that, besides freaks and weirdos. But yeah, I think we deserve better than the BLM organization.
If what you said is true, right? Even 10% of it, even 1% of it is true, right? Absolutely, they need to be thrown overboard and give somebody else the realm who will run this place, who will run the organization
Okay.
according to the mission and the policy. If they are funneling money and they are self what you call it,
They're still funding their lifestyle.
yes, they are benefiting from it individually. I do think that they need to be removed from the board, just like remove them from the board or remove them from the helm, and put somebody in place who will, who's invested in the cause and not in self-interest. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to focus. No news media or political vice going to get me to focus on what Black Life Movement is doing and not doing, and take my focus from off what's going on with black people in the streets of America.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just want us to be better stewards of who we're lifting up to represent us and to fight and to advocate for us. We need to do better than that because we deserve better than BLM. Yeah. But so that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let us know what you think. And if my dad doesn't have anything else to say.
Thank you again for listening. Remember to subscribe, like, and share.
Don't
your
forget.
comment, positive or negative.
Comments.
We love to hear from you. Okay? If you think I'm full of it, say it. If you think my son is full of it, let he know.
Great. The internet was going to do that anyway. But thanks, guys, and have a good day. Until next time. Bye.